everyone, it's Michelle Lloyd here, founder of United Art Space. Sorry, I'm a little bit late this morning and my hair's still soaking wet. I've had a morning of dropping the kids off and getting stuff ready and had a quick shower and yes, crazy morning. How are you all? I hope you're well. So this is coming to the end of the workshops now. So everything ends tomorrow. So if you've been watching the workshops online, hello Magda, how are you? Stacey, good morning. I've got soaking wet hair. I just got out of the shower and I was like, oh my gosh, it's 11 o'clock. Hello Lottie. Yeah, it's just been one of those crazy mornings with the kids getting them ready for school and all of that, and you know what it's like. Stacey knows what it's like. Hello Jane, how are you? So the workshops come down tomorrow. So we've got a chat about pricing right now. Then tomorrow is the final Q&A. So tomorrow morning at this time, I'll be on time tomorrow, I will be doing the final Q&A. So I'm going to round up all the questions that I've been getting asked. So this is your last chance to ask questions. If you're inside the Facebook group, I'll put a post out today and ask any final questions and I will answer those. We'll have a big Q&A session tomorrow. And then of course we've got the live art party tomorrow. So tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. UK time, that's UTC +1. I will be at Sharon's Pottery live and we're going to be drawing and painting together. So we've done these before in the past and they're super fun. And we just all get together and everyone's chatting in the comments. We usually put some kind of still live together in case you need a bit of inspiration. Some people draw Sharon and I, and it's whatever goes really, but we all come together and sit and make art. It's awesome fun. Hello Jay, how are you? Leah's just joined the hub, yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, Leah. Hello Pete, hello, how are you? So let's talk about pricing, which fries my brain. I'm not going to go deep into pricing today because it is a big topic that's very, very complicated to explain. This is the ironic thing though, it's complicated until you find your way and then it's not complicated, it's really easy. It's such an irony. So the reason it's so complicated for a lot of people, I think, in the beginning stages is because you don't know your who. And if you don't know who you're selling to, it's very, very difficult to price. So when we go through these 7 key ingredients that I've created, getting an idea of your people really comes first before pricing properly. Now, if you don't have a clue who your people are, then you just set a price. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Hello, lots of people are hopping on. This is amazing. Hello, Judith. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Kate. Lovely to see you. Adette. Oh, hello, Adette. So yes, I get lots of questions. And I've seen this so many times. People post work. Oh my gosh, Michelle's thinking of joining the hub today. Do it, Michelle, do it. In fact, if you join the hub, I'll flip my screen on in a minute. There's a big chunky lesson on pricing that breaks down the steps of pricing. But let me just step right back to the beginning. So I get a lot of people posting their work and they say, I've got this work, I'm pricing it at this price point, what do you think? Or I've got this work, I don't know how much to price it for, tell me how much it's worth. And and I understand why people do it because it's so difficult. And also when you're putting your work out there, so we've seen in these workshops, people have started to put their work out there, it's inevitable that people will ask you, how much is it? When you start carving out your place and start becoming visible and getting your work out there, people will always go, oh, is it for sale? How much is it? And then people go, oh no, someone's just asked me the price. So this is why pricing your work, even if you don't know the who, putting a price on your work is such a good idea as soon as you can, because you want to feel confident and be ready for when those people ask, is this for sale? How much is it? Because I've seen it happen. It sends people into a panic. They either don't sell it or they go, oh, it's $10 or £10 because they're too scared to put a price on it. Or they go, you can have it. So stepping right back to those beginning days, because I know we've got people at those very beginning stages. So when you are putting your work out there and people start to have an interest in it and you don't know who you people are, you just haven't got that far down the line yet. When you're in those stages, the best thing to do is add up the cost of your materials and add on a fee that covers the time that you're happy with, so that you're not making a loss. That's the biggest thing, because I see so many people selling artwork and there's no way they can be making money on it. They've got to be selling it at a massive loss. So you don't want to be starting off on that footing. You want to start off on the foot where you're going to be getting your money back and a little bit more. So when you don't know anything about your market, your people, just price that way. Just add up your materials and a little bit on top, and just go with that for the time being, because just know that your pricing isn't set in stone. And if you're not an established artist yet with a collection, then that's okay. You're in the beginning stages. And actually getting a sale in those beginning stages is important, because that then is social proof. So if someone's bought your work, you're selling. That's all good. It's also really good for your confidence when you've sold something and someone else wants what you've got. There's no better feeling. I'm told by that. It's just the best feeling when you get that sale. And to know that the work has gone on somewhere and it's on someone's wall or they've done something with it, it's the best feeling. So I think in those early days, it's okay. You have to weigh up the situation yourself, but it's okay sometimes to say, if it's someone that I've never sold before, I'm going to be honest. So I've added up my materials and my time, and this is the price. What do you think? And have a negotiation and a conversation about it. Or, if it's to someone you don't know and you don't want to seem unprofessional, you could say, thank you so much for taking an interest in my work. This is actually one of my experimental pieces. I'm working on a bigger collection at the moment. You might feel the fear saying that, but say it, because this is what I'm teaching you and this is what you're doing. And so this one is this price. What do you think of that? And throw it back to them as an open conversation. And never be afraid to follow up with people. So if you've given a price, I've known people before go, they send it and then they go, ooh. And then they go, I've not heard anything back. It was obviously too expensive. But chase people up, because quite often the email or the message will go to someone and they'll be busy, or they'll look at it and think, oh, that's good, and then they'll go and do something else, and shiny object syndrome, and then they completely forget. So always follow up. Say, hey, I just wanted to check that you got my message, just wondered if you're still interested. So always follow up. I've spoken to so many artists that say, I don't want to follow up with people because it's like pushy and don't want to get on their nerves. But I've had so many people say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you followed up because I forgot about that and I really want it. And even if they say no, it's okay. They might go, oh no, do you know what? Thank you ever so much, but I've changed my mind. So that's the beginning stage. Just get going, set a price. And it's a really good idea. Let me just take a sip of my drink. In those beginning stages where maybe you've got experimental pieces, one-off pieces, to put a price on them before you're ready. Just start to think about your pricing before you get to that stage where someone asks you. But then as you do get going and you're building out a collection and you are starting to understand your audience, and this is where the problem comes from, asking random people in an art group what you should price your work at, because there are so many factors that affect pricing. And in the hub, if you join, you'll get a bonus sent to you immediately when you join, breaking all of this down and showing you the things that affect pricing. Because the big things that affect pricing, of course, an artwork is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. And so it really is about your people and your who. And when you start to put your work in certain places, it all becomes relative. So if you're putting your work, say you've priced your work at $50, £50, and you are trying to get into an art fair, for example, a high-end art fair, the work won't fit there at that price, because they don't sell works for that price, they sell more expensive pieces. And so it all becomes relative to where you're putting your work and who you are selling it to. And so this is really, really, really important to start researching rather than asking people, because I could look at your work and I could say, oh, I would pay £1,000 for that. Someone else in the group would look at it and say, I'd pay £30 for that. It's so subjective. And so this is when you carve your place out and you're putting your place in your work in a particular place, the price point becomes relative to the place that you're putting it. So say you're starting out and you don't even know where you're putting your work yet. So you start to look at the kind of work that you're making and the collection that you're making, and you start to look at what other people are charging for the work that you're making. That's very important, because if you, and especially if you've got an idea of the place that you'd like to start selling, if it's the art fairs, if it's online, start having a look at the artists that are selling similar to you, and start to just get a feel, because that's a benchmark then, because you need some starting point. And the best place is the place where you think you're going to end up putting your work and starting to get a feel for the type. There are many then different ways that you can price your work based on, like I've spoken about, the materials and then the time that you spent on it. This won't work if it takes you years to make a piece of artwork. So I've got inside the pricing guide that's inside the hub loads of different formulas that you can use to price your work, and those formulas work for different people. And so there's different ways you can price per square inch, so the size of your work works very well for some people, and so there are lots of different ways. And of course, there are people that have work that already exists that you price, and then there's commissions. And so commissions are usually, yes, you price up your materials and the time that you spent, and you come up with a rate that you would like to get paid. So all of these factors, you start to weigh up, like what you would like to get paid, what's going on in the kind of area that you are working in, the kind of art that you're making, the other artists that are selling, and you start to piece all this together to come up with a price that's comfortable and you feel that is confident and you feel like, yes, this is it. Another thing is, you definitely don't want to overprice your work. It's much better in those early days to underprice it, because then you slowly edge your prices up. Because what happens is, if you overprice, you've got nowhere to go other than come down, slash your prices. If you sold a few prices at that really expensive price and then you're having to slash your prices down, it doesn't look great to the people that bought at that very expensive price. So you don't want to go too high. You're better off going lower. And then when you start selling, you put your prices up because it's demand. So that's the way you know that you need to start putting your prices up, is when you're starting to sell lots and lots. It's happening to June inside our membership at the moment. She's having these shows and she's selling out. So that's the time then that you put your prices up, when there's a big demand for your work. Sometimes you can underprice. So for example, when I was saying, if you've priced at $50, say, and your artwork is, premium, you use premium materials, there's a skill set and there's a demand for your kind of work in an art fair, for example. Marita is a great example of this. She's got an intricate, very technical way of applying hand-painted ceramics. They're beautifully made, crafted, and so there's a place for them in the higher-end market. They're gifts, higher end. So if she was pricing her work down at that low end, people will start to notice that and go, that is too cheap. And that's probably why it's not selling, because when you see a beautiful product like that and see the low price point, people who know will start to think there's obviously something wrong with this. But what I will say is if you are underpricing your work, you will soon realise, you'll soon be told, because when you start to get your work out there, people will tell you that this is underpriced. So you don't want to be going way too low where you're undervaluing it completely to the point where you're not making any money. But remember in those early stages that it's okay to go a bit lower and test the market, as they say, and start to find your feet. And when you start selling, your confidence will grow, and then you itch your prices up. So when you start out, you price it and whatever, and maybe you're just making the odd sale here and there. Then when you start to become established and you're carving out your place and you're being noticed and you're putting your work in places, that's when you need consistency in your pricing, and you price with confidence so that you've got a particular way that works for you, that you price and you know that that is your price, you're making money from that, and it fits with where you're putting your work. That is so important, the place where you're putting your work. If you're coming into an art group asking, I've got this show, how much do you think I should price it at? No one can answer that question. Only you or the people who know about the show, because we don't know the type of people that are going to that show, what the price points are. So if you're in a show and everyone else is selling works at around $500 and we say, oh yeah, that's definitely worth $2,000, it's never going to sell in that place because you're not fitting in with the price points that people are selling at. Unless, of course, maybe this is why pricing is so complex. But in my lesson, and I've been told the hub members have done the pricing lesson inside the hub, and I've broken it down from beginning right to end, and everyone has said they've done that and priced their work with confidence afterwards. And so I've broken it down to make sense, which I'm quite good at this. I'm quite good at breaking things down and taking it through the beginning stages right through to when you're putting a collection together, to where you're putting it, and to the ways, the things that influence pricing and the things that you just need to consider. And everyone that's taken that course has ended up pricing their work with confidence, and they feel good about pricing. And that's where you want to be pretty much straight away. And know, these are two great tips that I've been given. Know that the price that you charge today is not fixed. So it's a moment in time. So know that just because you're charging something today, all of a sudden you get lots and lots of sales and things start to really take off, then your pricing is going to go up. In the next few months, you would put your pricing up. That's how it works. If you've got so much work that you can't handle, you put your prices up, because then fewer people buy. You're doing less work and you're earning more money from it. And again, this is what I teach in the pricing lesson. Another great tip that I've been given is never price your work based on your own perception of the value of it. So $80 might be a lot of money for you. You know, you might be at a point where you are skint, you're scraping around every month, and spending $80 on something that is a luxury purchase, it makes you uncomfortable, and it's a lot of money. And never price your money coming from that perspective of what you feel is expensive, because you can guarantee that to someone else, that is not expensive. It might be really cheap. So that's, again, it's relative. It's where you're putting your work, and the people that you're selling it to are not the same, maybe in the same position as you. So always bear that in mind as well. That's why I think people get a lot of fear around pricing, because they're pricing it from their own perspective, thinking this would be a lot of money, for me. So I don't feel comfortable charging this. I remember Sharon saying this to me. She was saying this to me a few years ago, and now her work is, pushing. The piece that she made yesterday, actually, when we were at the pottery, I asked her how much that would be selling for, and it's £1,700. And a few years ago, that made her feel very, very uncomfortable. But to her customers, That's just not, it's not a high price. And in fact, now, this is a great story to tell. So Sharon, 3 years ago, a large piece like that would have sold for about £500, £800. And she realised that her work was underpriced. And she was going to the art fairs and she wasn't selling. So she was kind of thinking that, am I overcharging? But it wasn't. It was that she was undercharging. And so when she got represented by the gallery said, we need to put your prices up. And so that's what she did. And her prices now have gone up by 4 times the amount. So that £500, £800 piece is now itching up to £1,700 to £2,000. And in fact, now she's becoming known. And this is what happens. Your pricing grows and you grow. And now she's been, what's the word, scouted? Sought after by other galleries. And there's another gallery that's got an eye on her work. And they said that we have definitely got your people. We think we could sell your work. But the only thing is, it's too cheap. You know, people who are coming into our gallery expect us to buy work that's around the 3,000 mark. So she is now going to be, you know, pushing her work further and probably making a collection for that gallery. So her work is going to be, you know, in the next year doubling. So it's very, very exciting. And so this is what happens when you start to, you just got to get a price on it. Just do it. This is my mantra. Just do it, but don't go too high. It's confusing for artists because so many people say, don't undervalue your work, so that makes them sometimes priced too high. I think as long as in those early days you're not making a loss and you're finding your feet, but definitely don't, you know, if you figure that this is too low, and you know it in your heart, then you will start to put your pricing up. And this is what we'll be doing inside the hub, is making sure that you are not undervaluing your art and that you are pushing your prices up. In fact, June needs to start putting her prices up. I'm going to be having a chat with June because she's at that place now. And what happens is when you put your prices up by 10, it's usually between 10 and 15%. If you are selling out and there's a gallery that's got a place for you, then a big jump. You know, if you're not maybe established and you've sold a few pieces, then, you know, that big jump isn't such a big deal. But once you're established and people have been buying from you, then you usually itch up between 10 to 20%. And it's not a massive, that's not a massive deal. And not that much noticeable to your customers. So they'll, you know, but it's a massive impact on your revenue and your income when you put your prices up by 10, 20%. And it's less work. So, and that's the stage that Sharon's at now, is that she's itching towards these galleries where, you know, her pieces will be 3,000 and she won't have to make so many pieces. So it's you grow into all of this. There was another point that I just wanted to make. It's escaped me. So I talked about, yes, that was it. There was the galleries. So of course, when you're pricing as well, when we think about the place, just need to take a sip of my drink. Hold on. If you are using third parties that are taking 50%, then you need to factor that obviously into your pricing. And again, I help you with that inside the hub, inside the pricing guide. So everyone that's joined, you should have your pricing lessons. Let me know if not. And I will be helping you with this when we get stuck into the hub. So we're going to be doing that first. First and foremost is, no matter what stage you're at, we're going to be helping you with your pricing right now. So making sure that everyone is comfortable and confident with the price that their work is at. And we'll keep checking in on this as well. But yes, so if you're planning to go down that route of selling through the galleries, I think if you're at the early stages, just, again, put the price on it and don't worry about it too much until you get to the point where you have got the opportunity to sell through a gallery, because then you can adjust your pricing. I think too many people jump ahead sometimes thinking, oh, I should price it right now for that. But you could be another 2 years without being represented. So price it for where you're at right now. But then if you are going down that gallery route, then of course you'd put extra on to the value of the art so that you are making money from it. You don't want to be making a loss. And another great tip on pricing is when someone comes and asks you for a price for an artwork that they like, if you give them the price and they say that it's too expensive and they can't afford it, always have another option to offer them that is less. So a print or maybe a commission. So you could say, okay, if that one's out of your reach, if you've got a budget, if you had a budget in mind, tell me your budget and I can make you a smaller piece that's maybe similar to that one. So always try and work with your people to come up with a solution for them. You know, if they're interested and they like something, try and work with them, but never reduce your prices. Why I say this? Okay. So if that price, you know, if you've got an artwork and it's at that price, this is my view. I know people do slash their prices, and it's okay. You've got to find your own feet. This is my view on it. I don't like to slash prices because I like to have a price and be confident about that price. And instead of, because otherwise, if you go back and you say, oh, all right, then, okay, I'll slash 300 off it or 50 off. I don't know, it just gives the impression that it wasn't worth that originally and they could have ended up paying that price and thought, oh, I'm glad I negotiated because it obviously wasn't worth that. It just gives that impression. This is just my view. So if, you know, I know other people do it and it might work in there with your people, and so that's okay. What I prefer to do is maybe offer free shipping or something that doesn't devalue the work. You know, if you buy this, I will. I've got some other pieces in a collection that I was about to give to charity. I'll give you another small piece, or you know, something like that. So you're not devaluing the work. I think that's important. But if you are in a situation where you want to, you know, you're in a pickle and you've maybe overpriced and you want to reduce your prices, there are ways to do that so that you're not devaluing your work. And you can say, so in the hub, we're growing email lists at the moment. So our members are growing email lists. And you can say to people, oh, I've got this old collection of work. I'm working on this really new, exciting collection. And so I've got old pieces from an old collection and I've decided to reduce those down, and so get this whilst you can, because I know everyone likes a bargain. People do like a bargain, but I think when you've got work that's current, try and retain the value of that. And so also in the pricing lesson inside the hub, I teach you how to get that value across, because like I said, artwork is only worth what someone is willing to pay, and there are ways that you can increase the value and the demand of your work. And that's what you want to be doing as you progress. So when you price, there are ways that you can explain the value and the worth of your work, and you can increase that desire as well. And that's what you want to be aiming to do as you go through your journey as being an artist. But if this is overwhelming and you're at the beginning, just do it. Just put a price on it. And do it keep it as simple as possible. Simple as possible. So at the beginning, negotiate with that person, come up with a price that you're happy with, and go for it. As you start to become known and your prices are becoming public and visible, be consistent. And it's important to be consistent across geography. So if you've got work that's in a place that is maybe a low demographic where people don't buy that much, and then you've got an opportunity to put it in a big city where people are spending more, you can't increase the price of that work because you think you're going to get more for it. Your pricing does need to be consistent when you start growing a following and you start to become public with your pricing. If you sell in a gallery and they're charging 50% more, again, your pricing still needs to be the same as the gallery. If someone contacts you, you would not take the 50% off and reduce your pricing, you would sell it at the same price that the gallery would sell it. Because it needs to be consistent. That's the worth of your work. So, and then usually you would have, this is again more advanced, but you'd have certain price points. So you make things, like I was saying, have something to offer people. So usually you have an entry level item, which could be a print, a little tiny artwork, something small, entry level. And then you usually have a medium price point and a high price point. And so then, if you've got something that's very expensive, you've got something else to offer people if they can't afford the high-end item. And then also what happens is when people come and buy from you, they usually come in at the entry level and they'll work their way up, because people, it's like 70% likely to buy from you again once they bought once. So people that have bought something small from you are highly likely to stay in your world and buy something more expensive and work their way. It happens. So common. So yes, some of the things that affect the pricing are the type of work that you're selling. But I've been asked about this before, whether the medium changes the pricing. And again, it really depends on your people and where you're putting it, because I've seen pencil drawings sell for thousands. In fact, the pencil neck, Owen Garrett sells his original pencil drawings for $30,000. So the medium definitely does not come into it. It can, but it depends on where you're putting it and who it's for. So the 7 key ingredients that I'm talking about are so important as you grow as an artist, and knowing where your people are and what, that relativity of where you're putting it. So Owen Garrett sells his work to big, huge oil corporations that are just, thousands of dollars are just a drop in the ocean for them. And so he wouldn't have jumped into that, selling his work at that price point to begin with. What he does is he sells the prints, and those originals have become very, very, very expensive because they've become sought after. He's sought after now. So those originals have become like so precious. And other people have got the prints of those that he sells the prints for. I can't remember now, but I think even some of those are going into the thousands for the prints. So, but he's worked up to that, so you wouldn't have just jumped in and gone, right, these are 30,000. So you grow into the bigger money by growing the demand, growing the desire. So know that whatever you charge today is not fixed. And some people think, I just don't know how I'm going to make a living from this. That's something else we're going to be doing inside the hub, is creating a plan for you, looking at the year and how much you need to be charging to make a living. So I know there's lots of people that want to transition out, and the best way to do that is to work out what you need to earn. Because what happens is when you start to put a plan together of what you need to earn to cover and replace the income that you have from a job, is you start to look at your pricing and you think, right, this isn't working, this is too cheap. So what am I going to do to create desire? And what am I going to do to up my game here so that I can start charging? I want to be in that gallery and I want to start charging those prices. I want £1,000. And what do I need to do now to get to that point? And that's what Sharon's done. She kept tweaking all the time. And where she was 3 years ago, she was struggling to make a living. She had to do art courses and lots of other things to supplement her income. And now she's thriving off just her art sales alone. So know that what stage you're at right now is not forever. And when you start to put a plan into place of, and this is what I worked with on Sharon, we put a plan and I said, right, we need to plan. Like, what is your goal? And she was like, I'd love to hit 30,000. So, right, okay, so let's break it down. How many pieces have you got? And what price point do we need to sell these at to hit the 30,000? And she was like, well, this is where they're at the moment. And we looked at that. And so to hit the 30,000, where do we need those to be? And so how many shows do you need? And so that's the steps that we took. I remember working with Sharon on that. And it's paid off because she hit the 30,000. She couldn't believe it. So last year she smashed it. It was 45,000. But hitting that goal came from setting that sales goal, because what happens then, it kicks you into action to think, right, I need to earn this, and my pricing needs to be more, or these original pieces, they need to be more expensive. So you start to look at your offer. But again, I'm jumping ahead here. If you're at the beginning and you've just got a few pieces, just stick to that and know that this is the long game. It's the long term. I'm going to quickly check in with you all because I've been rabbiting on, and hiya at the paint job today, listening in, says Sally. Sally is awesome. I love Sally. She helps me out. She kind of like runs our virtual art studio. She's inside the hub. She's a member, and she will inspire the socks off you because she's a single parent. She's got a little girl. She's a grandma now as well, and she has been juggling her art, and she shows us painting inside her bed with the little girl beside her, and she's doing it. It's incredible. And I take my hat off to Sally because she is stretched to the limit and she finds a way to do this. And if Sally can do it, you can do it, I promise you. And Sally's a huge supporter inside our group. Lottie, do galleries ever tell you what they would be happy to sell your work for? Yes. Or do you have to go to them with a set price? So Lottie, great question. And what would usually happen? Sipping my drink, hold on. So say you go to a gallery and you've got a collection of work and you've got your eyes set on this gallery. What you would do before you go in is you would check the price points. So before you go and approach a gallery, check what the price points are. Because if your work is way off what they are charging, then your work is not going to fit in there. But it's still okay to go and approach them, but be mindful of that and know, and go in there and say, I really, really would love to be in your gallery, and I love the artwork that you've got, and I really feel like my work is strong and it would fit. But I realise that the pricing needs some adjustment. And a good gallery, if they know that they can sell your work, they will work with you on your pricing for sure. So a good gallery knows their customers. They'll have that entry level and ceiling price point. They'll know what prices their customers like to pay, and they'll know by looking at a work whether they can sell that work at that price point. Sometimes if you go to a gallery and they say no, it's because they just can't sell it. Either they haven't got the customer who will buy your voice, maybe the gallery doesn't connect with your voice, which is fine, or they just your work is just not the right price point. So if you're established and you know it's a big jump, then you'd have to work with the gallery to think of a way that you create like an exclusive collection for them, for example. That's what Sharon's working with now. So she's been approached now by galleries, but it's not her price point so much more. So she's thinking now of adjusting the price points so that she can put those 3,000 pieces, and they'll have to be something spectacular, so it sets them apart from the pieces that are half the price at the moment. So that's how you then start to work. That's the negotiable part of being an artist. When we talked about the non-negotiable part is your why, your voice, the reason you're doing all this in the first place. Your negotiable part as you go through is you might create a collection that's specific to this person that really likes what you've got, and they go, we've got your people. And you maybe start to tweak some things and to fit the price points possibly. So, but yeah, a good gallery will tell you roughly like, yeah, I think that this is what it's worth. A really good gallery knows their customers inside out, and they have a good relationship with them, and they'll know what they can sell work for. But the galleries that kind of just, the galleries that are for fun maybe, and they've got like loads of different random pieces of artwork, then maybe that's a conversation that that you go in. And I've worked with Mary, had this inside the hub. So she found a gallery, but the price point that the gallery's selling at would have meant that Mary was kind of making a loss by the time they took the 50%. And so that was a conversation to be had. And if that's happening, it's a conversation to go back and say, I really want to be in this gallery, but this price point, if I sell it at this, I'm really going to make a loss. So work together on that, because at the end of the day, if they've got your customer, then it's a win-win for both of you if you can make it work. So sometimes it's about negotiating and saying, okay, so if we sell at this price point, I'm going to be making a loss. So could I do some smaller pieces that go in here for that price point, or it's about negotiating and just coming up with ideas. Know that I think a lot of people fail on that negotiation part. It's tricky, and this will come with your confidence and come with time. But people walk away from opportunities sometimes when there was an opportunity to negotiate with somebody and make it work for both of you. I love the word collaboration. So when you are working with somebody who's got access to your people, collaborate, negotiate, come up, bounce ideas around and go, do you know what? That price that you mentioned just does not work with me, but I really am keen to work with you. So I'm really eager to kind of work something out. Could we get our heads together and maybe you come up with some ideas of how it could work so that it works for both of you? Don't be afraid to do that, and don't be afraid to also say, you know what, I've never done this before. But come up with some ideas and say, these are just my ideas. I'm really open to some ideas from you. Maybe we could come up with this pricing together. Don't be afraid to say that. Don't feel like you've got to go in and have it all figured out and pretend to be someone that you're not. And a lot of people do that. They go in and what happens then if you're pretending that you're somebody you're not? You go into these places and you get defensive. You either shut down and run away without saying anything, or you'll start getting defensive and go, well, I think it's worth that. And it's the very nature of when we are put under pressure and we don't feel confident. It's one or the other. You shut down or you get arsey and you get defensive. And actually, when you just be yourself and you just go, do you know what? I'm a bit out of my depth here because I'm a bit out of my comfort zone because I've never done this before, but I'm really excited by this opportunity. I'd love to get together and come up with this prize together or this opportunity together or whatever. Don't be afraid to say that. Say it in just a really nice, authentic way. And I think some people are worried that they're going to be taken advantage of. If you admit that, I think people think that if you admit that, they go, oh, right, I see an opportunity here to just rinse this person. But you'll get a sense of that. And again, this is why the hub is amazing, because when you're faced with these conversations, we have so many people come in. I had Anna Kelly come in and she said, I exhibited last year and I paid for my work to be in this exhibition. And it's got my people are there, but I didn't sell anything. And the event organisers have come back and said that they really want me to go there again, but it's like £500 and I don't know what to do. And so these are the kind of things that people come into the hub with, questions like this, like I've been faced with this, I don't know what to say. And I went back and I said, right, okay, it was a non-art event, it was like a fashion event, but it fits very nicely with her work. So I said, go back and say, I really enjoyed, I'm going off the topic of pricing here a little bit now. I really enjoyed exhibiting at your place last time, but I've got to be honest, I didn't sell anything. So it would be a bit of a risk for me to spend that money again. How about I come and show and put a display up free of charge, and I'll put my work up. And I can't remember how she worded it, but anyway, they went back and said, "Oh yeah, fantastic, yeah, come and do it for free." So she got to exhibit there for free. So she was literally about and ahhing about spending £500 on a show there. And one conversation with us inside the hub turned the whole thing around, and she went back with confidence and said, "You know what? I would love to be part of this, but it's not worth me spending the money. But I would love to show my work there. I'm happy to come and hang it all." And they said, "Yeah, absolutely." So she got the exposure for free. And so these are the kind of things, being open for negotiation on pricing. And that's what we're going to teach you inside the hub. Great question, that was. Great question. I need to review my prices on my paintings. They're way too low. Yes, we'll review that. Kate, you're inside the hub now, so you're going to get some help on that. Oh, hello, Joe. Joe's on. Stacey's friend. Stacey was telling me how awesome you are, Joe. And I've been seeing your work. It's amazing inside the group. Thank you for sharing all your work. Jane said, do galleries typically take 50%? Yes, they do, yeah. Which is, I think, is very... I know some people hate it, but I think it's so good. I think that if you find a gallery and they're doing all the marketing, they're doing all the selling, they've got your people, oh my gosh, it's like you would give someone 50% of the sales if you could get in front of your people. You know how hard it is to grow an audience and to grow your people. You can do it, but it takes time. So if you've got people who have access and they can sell to your people, 50%, do it. I totally think, and I said this the other day, that it's actually very common in other industries as well, when people have access to your people to split 50-50. So it's definitely worth, if in the worst case, they don't sell anything and you don't give it to them. But if they are selling, look at Sharon. She that 45,000, she didn't get all of that because she had to give the galleries a big chunk of that, and I think it was nearly 50% of that came from galleries last year. But this year she sold a lot herself, so she's got a lot of 100% sales. But I think she's had to give the galleries 10,000 so far this year out of 30,000. But it's still incredible because she would never have made those sales, and also because of that now she's becoming known and seen, and the value of her work has actually increased because of being in those galleries. So, it's definitely a win-win situation. But I just think if people, even non-galleries, if you've got an opportunity to work with somebody who has access to your people, always go in with you could go in with 40% or 30% with a view of negotiating to 50%. But if people have access and they're willing to sell on your behalf, then it is definitely worth splitting the sales with them. And there's room to do this outside of galleries as well. So with people outside the art world, if people have access to your people, negotiate and say, if you want to sell my art, if they've got the people and they've got the drive to do it, and they see something in your work, it doesn't have to be a gallery. It could be a hairdresser, it could be a gym, it could be a tea company, it could be a jeweler, it could be anyone where your work fits with the story, the theme, but people need an incentive. So if you've got your work somewhere and no one's got, this is the problem with putting your work in places and there's no one selling your work, in bars and things like that. I think it's great when you're starting out to get that exposure and that experience. And I've been to bars before actually and seen nice work that I wanted to buy, but then couldn't find anyone, so I didn't buy it. And that's the problem. And they're not taking any commission. There's no incentive for them to sell it. There isn't. And we're people, we're human. When we've got an incentive to sell something, we're going to get 50% from it. We're going to put some effort in here. We're going to sell it for you. And so I just think that when you're doing that, it's so worth it. If you're putting your work in somewhere and they're not taking commission, it's usually because they're not confident enough to to think that they're going to make the sale. If someone's confident to know I can sell this, they will do the 50-50 thing. So yes, I definitely, sorry, I banged on about that way too much. But of course, you can sell yourself and take all of the money, which is the best. Is the best thing. I think a bit of both is quite good, to be honest. If you can strive a bit of both, but obviously, yeah, if you're good at dealing with people and you can grow an audience, 100% you don't need the third parties. But I do think there's potential there, though, to grow through third parties, even if you don't sell through them, to get exposure through them in some way. Digressing here. I hope it's still useful. Also helpful, Michelle, thank you. There are lots of things to factor in. What about size? Yes, I love painting large pieces, but part of the choice to do that was to appeal to a specific market. Yes, size definitely has an impact. Again, it's relative to where you're putting it. So, you could go to a market and take your big, huge pieces, and people who are going to markets aren't usually spending any more than £50, £100. So you're never going to sell any more than that for one of your big pieces. Whereas you take it to an art fair, high end, where people are going for interior design, they want to put them into big office spaces and big, huge houses, then you're looking at a few thousand. So again, it depends where you're putting the work. But then size it makes the most sense to a buyer. So, if you've got a tiny little piece and a big massive piece, and your little piece is 3,000 and your big massive piece is 200, to a buyer that does not make any sense. And you could argue the fact that the little piece took you 3 years to make, whereas the big piece you made in an hour. To a customer, you've got to see it from the customer's point of view as well. And so, and this is what will help you with, is putting that value piece across, because it is important to explain that. So if you do have a big discrepancy like that, you need to explain that through your pricing. It needs to make sense to a buyer, because if it doesn't make sense, if you've got big, massive differences in your price points, that does not work. If you've got something very, very low and something very, very, very expensive, without there being any understanding between why, there has to be a valid reason. So, yeah, it's a good question, Pete. Thank you. When do you know it's the right time to make prints of your work, as it's quite a high investment? Well, I think that when you start selling and you want to when you start selling and you want to retain the rights, so you could retain the rights anyway. So you could sell the original, for example, and if you've got a popular image, retain the rights of it, so that when you're in a position to, you could start running prints of that piece. But you can also do print on demand now, so you don't make the print until someone pays for it. So there's lots of print on demand sites that you can use to test things out as well. So you're not taking the risk. But I think that once you start selling and you start to know which of your pieces is popular. So there was like a piece that Mary did that was hugely popular. People kept commenting on it, and she turned that into prints, and it's done very, very well. And so it's when you start getting yourself out there, really, Jane, and testing things out for sure. The gallery that some of my work takes, the gallery that has some of my work takes 50%. Oh my gosh, it's 12 o'clock. I've got to go. I'm actually live again in a minute with one of my members at 12 with Sally. I'm just going to quickly look at the comments and then I'll be back on again, because Sally's going to talk about her experience inside the hub. Yeah. And just, I've been getting friendly with a local gallery one day. Yes, I'll be brave enough to approach them. Stacey, that's how it happens. Joanna, hello. I'm a photographer. As you know, I'm considering working with an online gallery, which gets 50% commission. Now I'm thinking about pricing. What a perfect time. So I'm thinking doing a limited edition of fine art prints. Brilliant. Yes. How many shall I go for in total? 100 per image or less? And is it true that the first 20 have to be cheaper than the second 20? I haven't heard of that. Oh yeah, I have heard of those first 20. You can do it that way. Yes, no, I have heard of that, and sometimes yes, you can. But it depends on how many runs. Just depends on if you want to speak to the gallery. If they're going into the gallery, I would speak to the gallery and say, how, roughly how many do you think you're going to be selling of these? And when you're doing limited edition, it's really trial and error in those beginning stages. So yeah, you run off 100 and price it up. So obviously the less editions you've got, the more expensive the prints are. So I'd go into the gallery and get a feel for how much their prints are and then work out how many runs to do. Because if it's a price point that's quite low, then you could do the 100, but obviously you don't print 100 in one go. This is something you need to check with your printer as well, because sometimes it's worth printing them off in one go. It's cheaper because they've got the inks, haven't they? I'll have a chat with you about that in the hub. Frame them or just sell printed photographs. This way I keep the price lower. Again, speak to the person who is going to be selling them for you, because they've got your people. Because it all depends on your people, whether they just want them and they want to frame them themselves. This is something, Joanna, when you start following, you start to ask people, would you like these framed, or do you want to frame them yourself? And start asking your people, because they're the best people to ask, I promise. And you could do a couple of both just to test and see. What sort of timeline do galleries typically have if they've requested a collection from you? E.g., all paintings take a while to paint. Well, you'd usually go in with your collection and they would represent you, and then you would be feeding them the work that you're going to be putting in well in advance, like months and months in advance before you put your work in there. But again, all galleries are different. You'd have to speak to the specific gallery because they're all different, Jane. Right, I'm going to go. Sally's on listening. She's here. Sorry, Sally. I overran. I knew I would. Well, as you know, I'm running a bit late then. Let me just check the questions before I go, and then I'm going to hop on. If you want to come on with Sally, we're going to be talking about how the hub has helped Sally. Let me just see if I've missed any questions. Leah, hello. I'm torn between the type of art I want to create. I'm a trained jeweller and I seem to move away from that because of how expensive the materials are. So that pushes me to use other media like paint, etc. to create art. I've only ever done one exhibition with my jewellery and did do well, but my children were small, so I found the amount of work hard. Now I'm living a lone parent, working 4 days per week. I have some time, but my finances are still limited. Any advice? I understand you haven't seen my work. Let's talk about this inside the hub, Leah, because I think we need to, we'll all work together on putting a plan together, especially as we're coming towards the end of the year. So in January, we're going to be doing a big getting ready for the year with a plan of, the kind of things that you sell, the price points, and it's really like where you should be focusing that time, looking at what you've got, because what you don't want to be doing is creating a load of new work at a lower price point with extra work. That seems crazy. So, it could be focusing on those higher end pieces and finding your place for those, but having something like I was talking about, having the entry level, the medium and the high price point, so that you've got something else to offer. So we need to have a chat, Leah, in the hub about that, for sure. I'll be doing some deep dive sessions inside the hub where I'll take your example, Leah, and we'll talk about it in more depth together with the whole group. It's exciting. I'm so happy. I'm so happy because everyone that's joining us is so lovely. So I'd love to share my work, says Kate, but I've no idea where or even if it's worth it and where to start. You join the hub, I'm going to show you all of this. You're going to learn all of this, I promise. Work through the 7 key ingredients and take things slowly. Don't make any drastic changes or decisions. I promise you that going through the steps will take you where you want to go eventually. Yes, says Stacey, yes. Yeah, and if you want to eventually be the full-time jewellery designer and creator, you will be. You will. Right, I'm going to head. Thank you so much for joining me. If you want to join the hub, if you join right now, you will get sent immediately my pricing lessons, where I take you from the very beginning and go deeper on all the different ways that you can price your work. I've also got a big mind map showing you all the things that affect pricing so that you can start to take that into consideration. And I will also be helping you in the next few weeks price your work with confidence. I want to make sure that everybody inside the hub has a price on their work that they're confident with by the end of November. That's what we're going to be doing. I want you to start next year feeling confident about the direction that you're going in and putting a price on it, even if it's that low price because you're not putting yourself out there yet and you're in the hobby stage. We're going to be doing that. You're going to have a price on your work, every single person. And if you know my members who've been in a long time, you're going to be putting your prices up. Yay, I love it. I'm so excited. I could scream. I'm so excited. Right, anyway, Sally, I'm going to hop on now and hook you up, and I'm going to be live if you want to hang around with Sally and I. We're going to be chatting. See you soon. Bye.